Welcome to Nerdarchists. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchists Dave, and tonight we're cracking open the bestiary of the imagination. We're talking creature creation, not just how to build them, but how to build them into your world.
And I'm Nerdarchists Ted. Get ready to unleash beasts born of lore, logic, and a little lunacy. From sky krakens that feed on arcane storms to goblin pit bosses running illegal fight clubs, we're diving deep into the DNA of truly unique monsters.
If you've ever asked yourself what kind of creature would thrive in this world, then you're already on the right track. Let's get weird, let's get wild, and let's start bringing your worlds to life, one custom creature at a time. Aether Skies is a world where 13 sky cities hover above a cursed and monster-infested surface powered by volatile ether and held aloft by spinning struts. Magic is both vital and corrosive, and the return of a lost city has reignited Cold War tensions, eldritch threats, and the unraveling of reality itself. You can look to the description to find links to our first ever Aether Skies as a game, as well as our 5e D&D game that is going on currently.
With this week, creature design in Aether Skies blends steampunk, high fantasy, and cosmic horror. Each monster has to feel like it belongs in a world where floating cities compete for dwindling resources, and every ether-powered invention risks madness. We'll talk about ether parasites, creatures that siphon raw magic from ships and spellcasters alike, and the towering storm eaters that consume clouds and skyborne life indiscriminately. We'll also touch on designing threats for airship crews, espionage agents, and surface scavengers in a world tackling under arcane pressure.
All right, so first up is Ether Parasites. Magic-draining creatures that feed on ether sources often invisible in clouds, threat to ships, cities, and casters alike. All right, so in my very first campaign of Aether Skies, I introduced something called Ether Parasites, also nicknamed Strut Strikers, because while they're not really harmful monsters or creatures in the world, most player characters, most species, most creatures in general, because they feed on raw ether and they're attracted to sources of it. But the problem is ether powers everything in this world. Their skyships, their cities. So in great numbers, these can start draining these power sources. So they're more of a nuisance, right? I wanted to create an obstacle that the players would have to deal with that wasn't always necessarily a direct threat to them, but would definitely be a threat to the things that they use and are important to them, like their ships. Where the cities, it would take a lot of other parasites to actually drain them enough to cause real problems. But that being said, they're huge beacons of ether, so they are going to be drawing these things like moth to a flame. And at this point, Ted, you've played in a couple campaigns now, and you've had to deal with them in various incarnations.
Yeah, so the ether parasites are literally terrifying for anyone who is wielding ether to a degree, because it's like they're going to be drawn to those characters. So in both campaigns, I basically am playing a etherficer, an artificer, whatever terminology you want to use that makes sense. I manipulate objects to be a barrier between me and the ether, but I'm still tapping into it, which means the ether parasites are coming after me. In both games, there's also characters who tap into it directly. And those are spellcasters. Usually your wizardy types are not going to be well defended against these things that just eat magic, because that's what they do. I throw out magic. These things eat the magic. So things are going to tend to just either like bounce off or just get absorbed into them, possibly making them even stronger. So I think these things are absolutely terrifying. And the fact that they can kind of come en masse, it becomes a really scary thing, let alone the aspect of them coming after a ship and eating your struts or siphoning the magic out of it. So now all of a sudden your ship is just going to start falling, and it can lead to all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and they serve more of a purpose too, right? They are also there not just as a threat and inconvenience, but also to kind of like ground the world in one of its key elements, and that is that rampant use of magic, right? And it is also, they also have an industry that's powered by magic. Like we mentioned, their cities and the ships, the ficers, and they power all their gear with it. So it's a way to kind of illustrate how prevalent magic is in the world by creating this specific creature that could possibly be an inconvenience, a nuisance, or even a threat, but only to those that are using the magic. Well, that magic gets used in a lot of things. So the concept behind the creature was to kind of, like I said, ground the players in the world a little bit more, and it's just another reminder of how prevalent magic use is.
And when you've got magic ingrained in society, I mean, it's literally holding the cities up. It's literally aspect of how just about everything is done. You put yourself in a situation that these things can literally take away all the things that you can do. Imagine if you had a creature in our world that literally removed the oxygen from around the people. You now don't have the ability to breathe. You are going to die around them. That is the same level of threat, in my opinion, as for parasites on a ship when you are flying miles above the surface. There is no coming back from, oh, I'll just take 20d10 and get back up. You're going to fall. You're going to splat to the ground. And if somehow, by some miracle, divine intervention, you're still alive, you're never going to find another ship that's going to bring you back up, because The only thing down there are pieces. You're not crafting a new ship.
And everything else is terrible.
Everything else is terrible.
Right. And like you mentioned, the way that if you're comparing something that eats oxygen, it will remind you how important oxygen is to us, right? It's not something we think about all the time. And that's just something to think about when you're doing monster design, creature design. Like, what is some key elements of your campaign that you want to bring to the forefront? And how can you do that through your creature design? They don't always have to be threats. They don't always have to be adversaries to the players, but they can definitely be things that come up. And whether it's through exploration or role-playing, that'll just kind of like reminds your players in a subtle or maybe not so subtle way that, oh, your world is kind of about this thing. This is an element of your world. In this case, that element is Aether. What's next, Ted?
So next up is Stormchasers, whale-like beasts that roam the skies, devouring storm systems and everything hiding in them.
The Stormchasers or sky whales have come up throughout the various campaigns to different degrees. In the first campaign, they were actually used indirectly, right? One of the players was a psychic, and they used their psychic powers when their ship was being attacked by other parasites, the strut strikers, to drive them away, because they're like, well, what is something that they would be afraid of? And I came up with this idea that there's these whales, these sky whales, that eat them. They just fly along the Aether and scoop them up as they go, and that would be terrifying to these. This is their natural predator, right? So the sky whale was born. In the current campaign that we're playing in now, we're halfway through it as of last week's session, sky whales have been very prevalent. The campaign kicks off with the crew being hired to find a particular sky whale that has eaten a ship. That's how big they are. And from there, all kinds of hijinks ensue. But because this particular campaign is set around this creature, the players start kind of adding in and building their own lore about what they believe sky whales are. And also, sky whaling is a huge industry in Aether Skies because it is a resource that provides lots of meat, blubber, oil, all the things a whale would typically provide the cities. By just bringing in a few of them each month greatly increases their ability to survive and supplement things that they already have, that they have on the cities themselves. But with that being said, like, the players all had like different stances on sky whales, some of them being more hippie-ish in nature and others being more indifferent. But it gave them something to focus on in the world and made them think about, how does my character feel about sky whales? What do the normal citizens think about sky whales in their day-to-day? Do they think about them? Is it something like the poorer citizens maybe can't get their hands on it so often, but when they do, it's a real treat, because to them, maybe it's like having steak that they don't normally get. Also, like, every time maybe someone burns a lamp, like, oh, that's the oil that it's harvested from these sky whales. And then the other side of it is they create interesting encounters in the sense that they're not really hostile creatures, but if you were to find yourself amidst a pod of them, they could cause a lot of incidental damage. And also, they probably are beginning to become a little bit more wary of travelers since they get hunted as well. So they're going to try and defend themselves. And like, one of the cool, fun things about the sky whales is they're called Stormchasers because they do exactly that, because they like the lightning. It doesn't hurt them. They're immune to the lightning. And scholars and sages speculate that they like the way it tickles when it strikes them, which came up in like one of the I believe the second session, when one of the players is like, I want to cast lightning bolt at a sky whale. And I'm like, your character would not do that because it is not going to harm them and they actually like it.
Since we're talking about from a design perspective, beyond just talking about what the creatures are, mention, being in a pod of them. So if you're not looking for a combat scenario, but maybe a skill challenge or a hazard, navigating through some kind of creature is absolutely something that is a thrilling and fun aspect that D&D really excels at. You've got sky whales that can do that. On the other side there's also layers of intrigue, mystery, lore, and magic that is absolutely going to be tied to a creature like a storm chaser. Okay, lightning, you just mentioned, they're immune to it. All right, why are they immune to it? So therefore, beyond meat and oil and blubber, well, is there something about the sky whale that is going to be useful for items pertaining to either resistance to lightning damage or offering up lightning damage? Are there any kind of organs that are alchemical use, or is there straight up magic, in the whales that only the people who, are brought these whale or storm chaser corpses going to know for sure? And it could be like, look, you share this secret. It is worth your life. We will kill you and everyone that is talking about this just to preserve it. I mean, we've got loads of secret organizations in this world, and I would not be above that being something that's in there that could be a very cool discovery aspect through gameplay, because like, you want to create these things to get to this aha moment. Sure, maybe it started off as we were getting these things for meat, but there's other choices for meat as well. Why are we bringing in these things that are so massive? That's got to be a complex process. to bring in something that is literally bigger than your ship. But what does it mean? What does it do?
Yeah, again, it's just another way to hopefully engage your players in your world. And whether you're using something like this as an adversary or an obstacle or just a cool exploration. And also, as the campaign has progressed, there's also been a bit of social aspects that have come up. You guys can check out the campaign and see where things have gone with it. They're short sessions, only 2 hours, so you don't have a whole lot to catch up on. But with that, let's dive into the newest creature that's been created for this world. Dark Riders of Haven, possessed remnants emerging from the cursed artifacts, perfect for surprise encounters or corruption arcs. So I first put together the Dark Riders for my D&D in a Castle campaign. And the very first adventure session, the players were charged with intercepting a ship that was coming back from Haven. And this is before Haven kind of got cleansed and was inhabited by citizens like our current adventuring crew. Haven was a dark place of Eldritch horrors. And it was stopped in the original campaign. It was a seal that was coming unraveled and opening. Those players were able to reseal it, but not before some things got out into the city proper itself, and things that were there already, they didn't get put back. They stayed there and they kept conspiring on how to open those portals back up, break the seals, and get out of Haven. And one of the things they did was the Dark Riders are creatures that kind of live on another plane of existence, like the ethereal plane, and connect to objects, and they can also connect to creatures, basically possessing them. So normal people begin mutating and becoming these crazy aberrations, super powerful, that are just want to spread more of their own so they can get back to the city and open those seals and let their masters through. Again, like this particular monster ties to the theme of the Eldritch horror of the world and the fact that there is something beyond this world that wants to get here and is malevolent and does not have good designs or intentions for the world of Zontera. And the awesome thing was the one player happened to be playing a blood hunter, and it's the whatever the ghost subclass one is, and they have the ability to see into the ethereal plane. So something that I thought was going to be a discovery over time almost happened immediately, because one of the first things they did when they encountered the ship coming back was they used this ghost sight, and they could see all the dark entities, all the dark creatures crawling all over these goods, and then they realized that the crew had actually been taken over and was possessed. And it's a fun horror element too, that you can reveal all of a sudden, like happened in that game, not by design, but by players doing player stuff, or throughout the campaign, slowly, maybe people the players have been interacting with and have bonded with, and their friends or even family, all of a sudden they become corrupted by these Dark Riders. And then the players have to face these dark versions of people they once cared about. What do? Do they hold back? Do they try and capture them to see if they can cure them somehow? Can this thing be purged from them? And in the current campaign, we are looking at another iteration of that. At least my players are seeing another iteration of that and dealing with it, which has been fun for me to kind of explore in another way. I don't want to give it away in case you guys do want to watch the campaign. Within, I think, the second or third session, you kind of get the gist of what's going on there. But it was just a way for me to take a monster that I created for that other campaign and go, okay, how can I use it in this campaign? And have these players explore it and also kind of get a feel for the dark underpinnings of this other place that is still trying to break through the seals.
You know, it seems like these things are a very fun and unique type of undead, and I applaud the design because, like, I feel like there's only so much that you can work with undead, and I feel like I've tried stretching my mind, and while I'm proud of my own creativity, undead is not something that I've been able to like scratch the surface at and make something that I feel, oh, this is a great form of undead to add to this particular world. So like, as we kind of dive into these settings, I really have to like scrape through the lore to come up with what types of new undead fit this place and fit that place. So tying something to Haven and these items, it's like, all right, this is really neat and intriguing because it can come from, all right, well, do we need to slaughter these things, or is there a way to like set them free? Do you destroy the item? Do you find a way to like remove their curse and allow their soul to go free? Like there's so many different avenues of approachability since D&D, sure, it's a base combat game, but it doesn't have to be. You've got a puzzle element to it, a role-playing element to it, and a combat element all to it, and it's one type of creature.
So if it being a new type of undead blows your mind, then you're going to really, really probably appreciate this. They're not undead, they're aberrations. They are dark entities from this other world, this other plane of existence where Cthulhian horrors live. And in a way, it would very much feel like undead, because the things that they take over are no longer what they were before. In the current iteration, it's a little bit different because of the hosts they have chosen.
So are they undead aberrations, or is that like they're not undead at all? They're just spirits.
They're more like aberrant spirits, right? So I like to think of, when I think of Eldritch horror, especially like Cthulhian type stuff, like Cthulhu, his malevolence exists on a level that like mortals can't even perceive. And not only that, like things from that ethos, from that world, they may not even perceive you. Like you're beneath their notice.
Right.
And because they're multidimensional, they exist in many places at once.
Right.
And that's kind of the concept of these things. Well, they're able to push off a slither of their existence to this realm, separating from themselves and imbuing it into native beings of this world and objects in order to affect and, in essence, infect the world. So if your airship got swarmed by invisible magic-eating parasites mid-flight, what would your crew do? Fight, flee, or feed them something worse? You had fun tonight. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next one. We've got more world building madness coming your way. Till next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.